So I think historically, of course, you've seen our exposure ebb and flow over time in terms of utilities. But one, of course, thing that's popped up a lot more recently is really around power, right? And really the big supply demand imbalance. And we could talk about this across countries, or we could talk about this, across even other industries and how this is going to be impactful. What's our take in terms of really what's sort of changing across those utilities? And again, this is a global phenomenon, right? This isn't unique to, let's say, the U.S.
This is a really interesting one and a really good illustration in terms of why perspective matters. Because we did see this fairly early on in terms of a trend happening within India. As a matter of fact, you saw that the base load power supply was not enough for the amount of demand that was in the system, and that was going to have to catch up. This prompted us to look in other areas and say, you know what, is this happening in other places too? And in fact, even in the United States, we're starting to see this as well, where the base load sort of power supply is not catching up. And in fact, the areas that have built out renewables the most aggressively, they have the most variation in their electricity sort of supply. These are the areas where baseload is actually undersupplied the most. So this is a phenomenon that's been growing, but let's not sort of characterize these things. They're happening at a much greater pace within the EM markets. We're seeing a lot more opportunity for very strong double-digit type of growth out of these very long-tail businesses, but we're starting to see some indications on the more the developed market side that this is happening there as well.
It's just if you think about these sort of like the major implications. I mean, this has to be a big policy issue as well, right?
Yeah, so it is a policy issue. You do have to think of it in terms of the companies that we're looking at as well. So if you are a data center or you're a technology company relying on this power, it's becoming an increasingly challenging issue to make sure you have that secured power to be able to do what you need to do from that data center perspective. And these things are actually starting to move the needle from an AI perspective, from a data center perspective, in terms of where can you get power permits and where you can get purchasing. And it seems some data centers actually have to curtail back what they can offer folks because they can't get that access to power. And this is happening in a number of spots in terms of developed markets. So these implications are broad-reaching, even beyond just the utility sector, but also outside in terms of other things that we're looking at. Tech, something else. Again, you're constantly looking over your shoulder and what other things could potentially be percolating. There'd be risks to other parts of the portfolio.